The gun battles in Red Dead Redemption 2 are about as chaotic as chucking a violent cock into a fox den. The refined sounds of bullets hitting cover and Arthur flinching like a little brother who is bigger in every single way but can't escape his learnt threat response or implicit memory. Red Dead Redemption 2 does have explosive ammo you can craft by hand one at a time. I'm all for realism, but seeing this animation 100 times encourages me to have irrational violent outbursts towards people kneeling by campfires. Not to mention ingredients are a bitch to gather as you annihilate an entire ecosystem, but with the help of mods, I can bypass this tedious routine the same way van drivers bypass typical British motor etiquette whilst on their way to give bull-busting quotes. I used the Rampage Trainer, link in the description if you're curious, to set every projectile I fire to explode like the world's most anxious man at an orgy, which means everything that flies through the air, such as bullets, arrows, plans made by Dutch, or Arthur Morgan's dingleberries, doesn't matter. It will vaporize all enemies and anyone else that thinks modern music nowadays is the most creative it's ever been. So can you beat Red Dead Redemption 2 with only explosive ammo? The gang managed to survive a situation similar to a lost child on Black Friday. We brought in one of the gang members called Davey that had more screen time than any franchise character that's killed off screen because they thought the director is an absolute piss stain. Dutch confessed his love for Davey.
I loved Davey.
Which by the looks on everyone's faces, they all knew about it. Like your mum knowing you absolutely did not wash your hands before dinner. After Dutch finishes his TED talk on how to solidify your attachment issues and having a candid conversation with Arthur like someone desperately trying not to go to an obligated AA meeting.
No more.
We stumbled into Micah the same way a rusty nail stumbles into your eye socket, took the scenic route down the hill and proceeded to lurk in the trees because I don't know, Arthur just has a real craving for pine juice. Or he desperately wants to jump scare Dutch and Micah since that would be about as entertaining as lighting a damp sock on fire. After Dutch taking so long to finish the word fine that you could probably find the time to build a Lego set the size of Greece.
We don't want to spook these fine people.
Micah and I hide away like a homeless man in the crawl space of a repurposed building for apartments. Dutch spoke to these tosspots and he was about as welcomed as a Jehovah's Witness during a penalty shootout.
It's goddamn Dutch Vanderlyn, you morons!
Completely eviscerated the enemies while simultaneously maintaining the structural integrity of the nearby house. I'm no surveyor, but a house made of mostly wood shouldn't be able to withstand what is essentially a grenade launcher. I mean, a really big gust of wind should be able to knock this bastard over, no problem. A guy comes out of the toilet, filled with misguided optimism and piss-poor planning, yet still tries to embody that main character energy just before I blow his arms and legs off. And his skin begins to char like someone who enjoys sunbeds too much. Another guy made a break for it into a catastrophic snowstorm without a horse in order to not die. Unaware that running out into a snowstorm, barely dressed for bedtime, is a guaranteed method to turn into a human ice lolly. So I blasted him and his 20 odd years of memories into the fucking snow. So really, it was more of a mercy killing. Dutch congratulates me like I just got a C- in a test. And he can now be happy his son is not a complete moron. I entered a barn and was hit in the face by a man demanding reparations from all his friends we murdered, that also murdered people and possibly even went a step further. I mean, murdering people in those days was about as common as the hot meal you can't afford, but the moment you cross that line you're giving us outlaws a bad name other than the fact that we are people evading capture from the law because Dutch is a complete bellend. Anyway, I started beating this guy like I was resolving childhood trauma and he was a therapist that gets off on being abused. Came to an agreement with the guy, he gives me a bit of information, I break his cheekbone.
What are you bastards doing?
Since the only option was to kill him or spare him, I had to let him go since I can only use my explosive ammo to kill people. So as he made a run for it, I walked outside, seeing him struggle through the snow, and introduced him to a high explosive incendiary, or HEI for short, which is also short for hiding everyone's incompetence. Micah finds Sadie and she starts freaking out, which makes sense. I mean, just look at the guy. He's the kind of guy you see at the local Weatherspoons trying to recapture his youth. After committing arson, Lenny shot us.
Somebody's coming!
Not really, but he could have done. Dutch sums up what it's like to be a World of Warcraft player.
I need some rest. I haven't slept in 3 days.
And Micah starts bitching about bunking with people he doesn't like. As if he's that one kid in the group during the school trip that's separated from his friends, or you know, he's Probably just a complete racist. Jose asks me and Javier to go look for John, and Javier responds as if he's just been asked to mow the lawn by his mum.
Now?
Javier talks about Dutch killing a girl before the game and starts acting like a lawyer who's not good at his job.
Dutch killed a girl in a bad way, but it was a bad situation.
Yes, Your Honor, he did kill her, but it was a bad situation, so maybe let him off. Yep, nailed it. I am totally convinced what he did was an accident. You know, like how keying someone's car is a complete accident and not at all premeditated. We found John with 3 claw marks down his face and gave him the good news that we are here to rescue him, because Abigail still wants him to pay child support. We were tracked down by wolves. I distracted them by posing as a supermarket employee, giving out free samples, blew up the wolves, which from their point of view makes it seem like I've just magically laid landmines all over the mountain. Javier says John's time is not over yet, like he's just done a deal with the devil for some fucking foresight. Arthur starts bellowing lyrics from a song by Post Malone.
Can we get some help?
Return John to everlasting torture, the same way you throw a chicken off a cliff thinking it will fly. Spoke to Pearson and he told me about his first experience with a mermaid.
We were stranded at sea for 50 days.
Charles drags me away from this conversation promptly to go hunting. Tracked a deer to a river and blew it to pieces. The game didn't like this, however, and gave me a slap to the face for it. However, upon reloading, the deer was still dead but in perfect condition, so I had a theory that it didn't have a problem with the deer being killed in the explosion, but the fact it catches fire afterwards. So with this knowledge, I purposefully aimed at the ground in front of the deer, which killed it, and the game looked at me and went, oh, fuck it, fair enough. Loaded them on our horses and headed out of the forest. Charles complimented my hunting prowess and accuracy, even though I used what is essentially a mortar.
Hoped you'd use the bow, but you're a good shot.
Came across a bear, Charles said leave it alone, and just like any cat to ever exist, I ignored him and started a fight. I was feeling confident, judging I had the power to erase anything from existence. On the other hand, this bear had the bone density of a nuclear bunker. Seriously, this prick just shrugged it all off and went home. Probably returned to his bear wife and his bear children, sits in his den and stares off into the distance having an existential crisis, wondering how the fuck he didn't win that fight. Charles asks Arthur about the last time he had a positive outlook on life.
20 years, something like that.
We brought the food back to Pearson, astonished that he was able to use any of it to make a meal, picking out all of the shrapnel and burnt pieces of fur. Drank some of his magic juice that helps you find religion.
Jesus.
Later on, Bill got smacked around, so business as usual. Dutch duly explains how difficult it is to only have the 1 pint on a night out.
Hard.
We rode out in search of the enemy camp. Dutch puts his detective hat on and analyzes the huge number of footprints in the snow, concluding that the enemies might be around the clump of trees. Dutch sends Bill and Micah ahead to set up near the campsite. Micah clearly having some attachment issues with a bottle of whiskey, the same way a dog doesn't give up a tennis ball you brought along to play fetch with. Scoped out the campsite that was missing a narration from David Attenborough and no one else. Dutch tells Javier and Lenny to be on Overwatch, the verb, not the video game. Apart from Javier using a revolver to cover us from basically another country, Dutch's plan is rather spot on, well thought out and shows great leadership. Good thing this will be consistent throughout the game. By the way, I wanted to see if friendlies were affected by my explosive ammo, and so I tested it out on Lenny and Javier, which was a terrible idea since it didn't leave a scratch on them and the entire enemy camp was more alert than your dad waking you up for a holiday flight after 3 hours of sleep. Anyway, I fell off the cliff and broke my neck. Reloaded a checkpoint, was trying to get into position, but this set them off like a rabbit being released during a dog race. Didn't matter all that much as I was blasting them off towers, off platforms, off their arms and legs, you get the idea. Found some dynamite, which took Bill to some very happy places. Can only imagine this was the stuff he was doing in the army, which would explain his discharge.
Looks fine. Smells good.
I mean, if you see your demolition expert snorting gunpowder, you'd be worried for him too, because he might get you all bloody killed. Captured Kieran before threatening him with an identity crisis.
You don't know your name?
Kieran was introduced to Dutch, and Dutch showed off his best impression of an estate agent in a vomit-stained shirt that's unbearably optimistic about the insulation of the cardboard box in a piss-soaked alleyway.
We are gonna find out what you need.
You know, maybe this guy isn't who he says he is. The next morning, John and Dutch had a touching moment that makes me think what the hell kind of gang did Arthur join, especially when it's this easy to cut clips out of context.
Want me to come?
Of course I do.
Abigail expresses her deepest feelings as a Star Wars fan whenever they see a new film that's actually good.
Guess I was hoping to see a corpse.
Arrived at the railway tracks as the most unreliable man in the world helps Bill to set up the explosives. Arthur just stands there like the little brother who's bored, and his mum has asked him to go help out his older brother with his Lego set. The tracks don't blow, despite Bill trying to inflate a reason into existence. Boarded the train, helped Lenny up with extremely helpful advice.
I've got you. Now stop yelling.
Absolutely decimated the guards on board, got hit in the face with a shovel, proceeded to do nothing out of curiosity, which concluded with me being tossed off. Wait, I mean getting thrown off the train, not tossed off. Threw the driver off the train, and before you guys complain that I didn't use my explosive ammo to kill him, technically speaking, I didn't kill him. Gravity did. Fought more guards after stopping the train, lined up a shot on one of them, and Bill, like the idiot he is, got in the way of my shot, which ended with him flopping in the air like a used rubber Johnny. By some stroke of luck, both Bill and Brown Jack survived. Dutch feels like he's missing out on some action.
What are you boys planning on doing in there?
So he bombed the train cart like it was the Arizona and I was a Nakajimi B5N bomber. My recording had a panic attack during this and stopped for a brief moment, but no matter, after slipping on the ice in front of everyone, we blew up the main cart and the remaining guards were funneled out. No thanks to me, as my scaring tactics blew up Charles, but luckily no one else was harmed. Robbed the train car, and Dutch asked me what I should do with the prisoners that were clearly in the middle of a human statue competition. Dealt with the prisoners in a very merciful way, even turned one of them into a chicken nugget. Made it to the next camp as Hosea talks about his experience working at EA.
All mud and morons, if I remember right.
After playing in the mud with the Mountain from Game of Thrones, we went to find Sean, who was captured by bounty hunters. Trelawney says they were transporting him by boat. Found said boat, which is fantastic as we can keep a low profile and follow them to a more secluded location.
Down there. Reckon those might be our boys.
All right, gentlemen. Follow me.
Okay, never mind. Misinterpreted Trelawney's instructions and returned to the start of the mission. Well, that's just great. But at least we'll be extra quiet the next time we find that boat.
Let's make sure it's him first before you go starting another war.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You think they can see us?
No, Arthur, they can't see you, even though you sound like a Monty Python sketch. Ambushed two enemies, luckily Trelawney didn't follow the same demise this time, and fought our way through the remaining bounty hunters. We cut Sean down from the tree and returned to camp. I cut away from the cutscene at a very ominous moment in the story.
Screw it. Let's just have some fun.
And went to visit a local O'Driscoll camp. Abandoned stealth because why wouldn't you when you have a pocket rocket launcher attached to the hip? Probably wasn't a good idea to fire it at point blank range though. The enemies were still repelled by us. I suppose Bill and John were wearing Lynx Africa. Met Micah in prison and he asked me about my thoughts on the new Christopher Nolan film.
I ain't decided yet.
Apparently explosive ammo is not effective at destroying a wall, so I guess we will just have to leave him alone to his own demise. Or do the stupid hook thing to break him out, whatever. Fought our way through the town and Micah decided to tell me about his accommodation status.
I'm moving.
Shot a guy and I watched his body as it started to catch on fire, but by the power of God himself, or a form of precipitation where water vapor in the atmosphere condenses into visible water droplets that become heavy enough to fall to earth, the fire is extinguished. Continued our escape where one of the lawmen told me a field goal was good and Micah was all too grateful for my assistance. Went to see Mary's little brother, Jamie, and confronted the cult leader he was with by just grabbing his neck and standing there staring into his eyes while Jamie looks on in terror. Jamie was having a funny 5 minutes and tried to off himself, but luckily I was able to blow the gun out of his hand, and it seemed to have worked, right until the cutscene ended, and it looked like Jamie just died from a sudden heart attack or internal bleeding, I'm not too sure. But since these missions were optional, we shall carry on. We tried robbing a train with John, Charles and Sean, but the passengers started freaking out, so I asked them politely to return to their seats. Saved Sean's life, but he died anyway. Disintegrated the remaining guards and lawmen and escaped. Met up with Micah again because he wanted to show us his best horse impression. and rob a bank coach. Swiftly disposed of the security, like an uninsured driver disposes accountability, got ambushed, and killed the rest of the remaining enemy gang members by rearranging the placements of their limbs. Micah almost got smacked by a runaway wagon, and for a moment we saw what life would be like without him. Pretty fucking sick. Blew the lock, grabbed the cash, and went to meet John and Valentine. John has a plan for us to be shepherds by using explosive ammo to scare the farmers off, like they've realised they've just left the stove on. Ran over someone as we came into Valentine. He clearly did not know the rules of sheep herding, as in if you're in the way, then be prepared to be trampled into the dirt. Met up with Dutch to have a drink. He bought a bottle of whiskey, poured himself a glass, but didn't pour me one because he's a rude bastard. So I guess Arthur had to improvise like an actor, forgetting his lines in a play. John and Strauss were taken hostage, but luckily we were here to rescue them. Unfortunately, blowing a man's head off right next to John's with explosive ammo might have been an issue. I tried aiming for the enemies, not holding our friends hostage, but somehow Strauss ended up on the receiving end of one of the blasts. There really wasn't a way to get through this section without killing John or Strauss. So, can you beat Red Dead Redemption 2 with only explosive ammo? No, you fucking can't. But we're going to carry on anyway. We started killing Cornwall's men. Dutch sets himself on fire and we failed the mission. Reloaded a checkpoint, Strauss got shot, and killed the rest of the enemies while simultaneously destroying the entire town. Got Strauss to safety and held off the remaining lawmen. At the next camp, we decided to enlist ourselves with Sheriff Gray after not killing their fugitives. This guy just fell off the train and I think it took him a moment to realise where he was. The main fugitive brandished a bladed weapon and approached me in a freezer, and so I incapacitated him. Twice, in fact. Put him on my horse to deliver him to the sheriff, although we had to hurry. As you can see, the poor guy was bleeding out due to a hole in his arm. Dumped him at the sheriff's and moved on. Dutch and Trelawney started talking to each other like a concerned parent and their passive child.
Where have you been? Around. And where you staying? I'm renting.
Sadie was giving Pearson flashbacks to the mermaid encounter he had while stranded at sea for 50 days. So I took her shopping. Got ambushed by some melons with guns, but they didn't stand a chance. Well, they weren't standing anymore, tee-hee-hee. Hosea and I went to the Braithwaites to sell back to them jars of their own farts and crashed into a tree for good measure. The Braithwaites showed great humility for accepting the gift that we stole that was theirs to begin with. Gave away some more booze at the Grey Saloon and was interrupted by a couple of guys who were more upset than the people that invented manners. I started shooting them, not having the foresight that using explosive ammo inside a wooden structure is akin to waving a rather large pork sausage in a dog kennel. Anyway, Hosea got in the way, which failed the mission, and so on the next attempt I did my best to control the situation better. I didn't even need to kill this guy as he ran into some flames and set himself alight. I was the one that started the fire, but let's not get bogged down with who did what to who. Made it out of the building and escaped with Hosea. Arthur is confused when the gang tells them Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 might be a good game.
You sure? Why not?
Uncle thinks he's got a plan to rob a supply wagon and drags Bill and Charles into it as well, looking like they were just about to go on a cigarette break. Robbed the wagon and we witnessed the entire kingdom of Rohan coming after us. To make things worse, I wasn't looking where I was going and died like a ballerina still dedicated to the craft. I respawned and instantly got myself involved in a 6-lane pile-up. Made it to somewhere safe, waited until nightfall, managed to sneak out without anyone else noticing, and it did not result in the entire cast of Peaky Blinders being murdered. Well, that was the plan for about 5 minutes.
Place looks empty to me.
Ran into the woods and hid with Uncle as 2 guards came to our neck of the woods. Killed my guy, but Uncle had to make things difficult and I couldn't save him without shaving off his remaining years on Earth. Robbed the Braithwaite's horses with John and Javier, despite one of the horses causing more problems than Adobe Premiere Pro crashing after working on a project for 5 hours without saving. Yes, it's a skill issue, but I'm still allowed to be pissed off. Sorry, moving on. Javier had a conversation about cigars.
I don't like Cubans. That's so?
And we got more ripped off than a plaster covering a scab. Took a walk with Bill, Micah, and for a brief moment Sean as well. We were ambushed by the Greys. Micah and I fought our way to the gun store, while Bill shouts that he intends to flank them as if they won't be expecting it after hearing him say it. Breached the gun store and used it as a shooting gallery. Micah set himself on fire like a toddler being left alone with a box of sparklers. Found Bill being held hostage, and like John and Strauss in Chapter 2, this too was an absolute ball ache to get past. Jack was captured by the Braithwaites, so acting like any responsible adult would, we killed everyone there and set the house on fire. The attack went pretty smoothly, except for my failed breaching attempt. I guess that wooden door was more enduring than a marriage that was far from happy. Spoke to Angelo Bronte, who had Jack, and talked to us like we were on benefits. For giving back Jack, we had to rob people that were robbing a graveyard. We got Jack back and carried on with our journey to get out of the overdraft. Dutch and I prepared for the trolley station before Kieran graced us with his presence. The O'Driscolls attacked and we had to defend the camp, but with my explosive ammo they would find out how foolish it was to attack us. Never mind. Managed to kill someone and they landed right into the fountain, which actually unlocks the good ending. Retreated into the house and I covered the back windows as the O'Driscolls tried to flank us. Managed to shoot a guy and the blast threw him into one of the windows I was meant to be protecting, which actually unlocks Micah and Dutch getting TB. Dutch, Lenny and I robbed the trolley station. I robbed the whole 3 people that were in there and made sure they would forget our faces.
Get on!
I swear that last one was a misinput. I had no idea Arthur would wind up so much for that punch. I'm so sorry. But it was funny. Moving on, after we played any game made by Ubisoft,
There's almost nothing here.
the police arrived and we had to make our escape. After we destroyed most of the streets of New Orleans, we made it to the wagon and I hope to God Dutch didn't set himself on fire again. On the way out, the Italians decided to get in on the action but were quickly snuffed out. Next, Dutch and I went into the swamps to find a boat so we could ambush Bronte's residence. We saved this guy twice, fought off the Eastern European alligator on steroids by nuking the fuck out of him twice, but he still shrugged it all off. We all got in the boat to go to Bronte, and Dutch talks to Bill like a mother talking to her 10-year-old son that's just learnt to swear.
Watch your mouth there, boy. Watch it.
We assaulted the house. John got shot because he's a turnip who got in my way. Dutch handed me a shotgun that would absolutely decimate the front door. We breached the house, disposed of every single Italian on the premise, found Bronte, who threw his gun the same way a Polish chef throws a cast iron pot across a pub kitchen. John delivers the most telegraphed punch in the world. I carried Bronte out of the house. Dutch sets himself on fire because he has the same awareness as a deaf bat, and the game again keeps accusing me of attacking him. How is this my fault? This happened again and again before realising Dutch couldn't be left alone near fire. Bronte's demand is received like a fart in the wind, so Dutch drowns him. We rob the Saint Denis Bank. Hosea gets open heart surgery, so we started shelling the buggers like they're an occupied trench in World War I. Got to the rooftop and continued the complete eradication of the PDA, except for these 2 that turn Lenny into a classic Disney parent. Dutch decided we should board a boat, so we did. We enjoyed a rather relaxing holiday in the tropics, which had everything: sun, sea, sand, and a disgruntled CEO that has his own private military. Returned to the swamps with a nice suntan and newly found optimism that was immediately shattered to pieces when the prefects showed up. With the help from Sadie and Bill, we cleared off the remaining enemies. Dutch also told everyone about a herb he desperately needs for a new recipe.
I just need somebody to buy me some goddamn time, one of you.
Moving on, Dutch was going through some things, but told me and Charles to go clear out the inbred cave up north, and reinforced his need for that special herb of his.
I just need time. I need time.
On the way there, I accidentally selected the option to take the canoes, no idea why. Guys, you are literally going against the tide. Surely riding a horse would be easier. Oh, what the fuck? Why is this even an option? To make things worse, when we get to Butcher's Creek, Charles then says we need horses for the final bit of the journey. Why didn't we just use the horses from the start, you teapot? But I digress a little bit. Charles and I make it to the caves and I try to clear them out. Took a few attempts as these guys charging at you with machetes was the most stressful part of the entire game. Eventually we killed them all and freed the girl that was captured there. During a very unfortunate walk down the high street, I saw a woman practice for what she would be doing later on that evening. Found out that my trip to the tropics has angered a particular bacterial disease. Fun times. Went on a boat to rescue John from Alcatraz, and Arthur was rowing so slowly that it was midday by the time we got there. Took out some guards that told us where John is. It was a complete miracle he was able to speak after surviving a drone strike. Got John out of jail and made our escape. Kept shooting guards, and the blast threw one of them into the metal bars above the bridge. Can only hope he was dead before that happened, as he hung there like yesterday's laundry. Made it to the boat. Sadie told Arthur she was rowing, and Arthur reacted like he was just told to wank off a horse.
Seriously?
Shot a guy who nosedived into the ground like a penguin, got John to safety, and prepared for the final train robbery of the game. On the way there, I took Micah out, but even though he didn't have a horse, he kept up with the whole group. The fucker was running like that guy from Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This wouldn't do, so I decided to take care of him once and for all. Okay, I got him a second time, and the game still looked at me like, what the fuck are you doing? He might be a turnip, but you can't kill him yet. Anyway, the train didn't stop in Saint Denis, so we boarded it, killed everyone on board. John triple tapped someone, which I thought was a bit overkill. He was then shot, and Dutch and the rest of them went after him. Grabbed the money and jumped off the train before it tumbled down into the pitch meeting of a new Netflix film. Dutch told us he could not be bothered to find John, so he's probably dead. But the PDA do have Abigail, so Sadie and I went to save her. Covered Sadie as she makes her approach to the most unrelenting man in the known universe. She gets captured, so I slam a high-powered sniper rifle, probably with one in the chamber, into the ground. Fight my way through the rest of the adjustment bureau, breached the door and destroyed the 2 guards, but the game reminds me, you can't use explosive ammo indoors within a hostage situation. Are you bloody mad? Milton told us Micah was a rat. Very unsurprising. It's like finding out your creepy neighbor is actually a serial killer. Abigail shoots him in the head. His hat flies off, revealing the most ridiculous haircut ever created. We escaped and went on to face Dutch and what was left of the gang. During the cinematic ride to my redemption, my horse decided to make things awkward and get stuck in someone's garden. Confronted them, told Dutch that Micah was the one that pissed in the communal stew that made everyone hate him. John arrives, and I found it interesting that Bill was the only one to verbally confirm it's him.
Dutch! John?
It's almost like he knows how their story ends. But I digress. Micah shoots Grimshaw, which leads to Dutch going full-on fuck it mode and starts pointing guns at everyone. The PDA arrive, and so we fight, followed by running away. Made it out of the caves. Micah and the rest of them chase us down, simply ignoring all the explosions I was throwing at them. Horse gets shot, so I help John get to safety over the summit. Said my goodbyes and beat the shit out of Micah so much that he can't finish a sentence.
Oh, Black Lung, you don't know how much I've longed to...
Dutch says stop. Micah throws a hissy fit despite his face looking like he's wearing war paint after going 7 rounds with someone who has a lung disability. Anyway, Arthur retires from the game's story. Fast forward to John finding where Micah is hiding years later. Charles gets sniped and I kill the sniper almost immediately. Fought our way to the halfway point of the Snowy Mountain Massacre. Sadie gets stabbed. I kill this guy. Pressed on through the random bad guys and found Micah. After a long back and forth, Dutch gets bored and shoots Micah. I launch a nuclear level explosion right into Micah's face, and I was a bit disappointed that it didn't blow off his fucking hat. Dutch was caught by some of the blast, as you can see from the cuts on his face. He even looked at me as if to say, you could have fucking warned me. And that will do for this video. I hope you enjoyed the adventures of Oppenheimer's dad obliterating the 19th century. If you did enjoy the video, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I would very much appreciate it, especially since you made it to the end. If you would like to see another video of mine, it will be on screen. Trust me, you will have an absolute blast with it. Anyway, thank you for putting up with me and for lending me your patience, and I will hopefully see you all in the next video.